So this follows the career of James Comey, who was up until about a year and a half ago was the FBI director. He was appointed under President Barack Obama and fired under President Donald Trump, who at the moment is still alive, as time of recording.
Yeah, although this is going out on Tuesday.
Yeah. Oh,
so if you're listening.
Yeah. Let's move on. And he's played by Jeff Daniels, who is one of the weirdest actors in the world. This is the guy that was in, Dumb and Dumber, and yet has done some very serious stuff like The Newsroom, where and there's some criticism for me that he's playing a very similar character to the one he did in The Newsroom almost in this one. But I don't know James Comey myself. But what you get is two people sitting in a room talking about the events from 2006, I think it was 2013 onwards, when he was first appointed, through the initial work around the Hillary Clinton email scandal, and then moving into the Russian investigation, into Trump's collusion with Russia over the 2016 election. And what we got on Sky Atlantic, as we mentioned, is 2 one-hour episodes, which end pretty much at the November 5th, 2016 election. And we see James Comey running the FBI, getting involved in all these investigations. You get a lot of interaction with these very senior staff, and also a lot to do with the New York office. And the key sort of big point is that for the first time ever, the FBI closed their investigation on Hillary's emails and made a public statement. And this had never been done before. Always their statements have been through the Justice Department or through the Office of the President. But James Comey himself did a statement saying, we have found nothing wrong. Then, through a scandal to do with a wonderfully named politician called Anthony Weiner, who publicly showed himself on...
There's a really good documentary about, if you've not seen it.
Oh, I've not seen that. Where is that?
Just called... I'm not sure at the moment. It was outside. Just called Weiner.
Oh, lovely. Perhaps I'll search that not on my work laptop.
No.
Good idea there, people. So basically, when he was investigated by the FBI, they found a whole load more emails to do with Hillary's email scandal. So they had to reopen the investigation and only closed it again, I think 2 days before the election, or I think the day of the election.
3 days, yeah.
So that takes up to... There are 2 more parts, which I know feature President Trump a lot more prominently. And he's really only shown in clips and in discussions in these first 2 parts.
Yeah. You've watched up to the Sky Atlantic.
Yes, I've watched
bits the Sky Atlantic have showed. Yeah, and I've actually watched all of it. So I have seen... The big talking point, I think, coming out of the series as a whole is Brendan Gleeson playing Donald Trump, and this is the first, I suppose, dramatic portrayal of Trump since he's been president, and I think it's hard. Sorry?
There's been a lot of comedic ones.
Yeah, but like Alec Baldwin famously, I suppose.
Yeah.
And I felt at first I was watching Brendan Gleeson with a lot of makeup, but actually, as it went on, I think it sort of became less of an issue, and you did feel like you were watching Donald Trump. Brendan Gleeson, I think, an interesting choice, an Irish actor. I was
going to say, when I looked him up, I realised I watched an awful film with him recently and I think it was Meryl Streep in the UK with my mum, where he's a guy that lives in, I think it's Hampstead, and he lives in a shack in the middle of Hampstead, and they're trying to knock his house down or something.
Is it Diane Keaton?
Oh, it's Diane Keaton, thank you. Sorry, I knew it was a woman with white hair and a mirror. But yeah, and that's a truly awful film that my mum made me watch, or I watched, with her, because, and I would never have picked that actor to play Trump.
He is wonderful in Paddington 2, though.
Oh yes, you're right. Oh, I've seen that.
Yeah, he's the convict, isn't he? Knuckles.
Yeah. Oh gosh, you're right. In fact, you'll probably recognise Brendan Gleeson if you look him up on IMDb.
Yeah, everyone knows Brendan Gleeson. You know him to look at him. Even though Mad Eye Moody in the Harry Potter films is probably his most famous role.
What did you think of Jeff Daniels?
I suppose, and you are a lot more au fait with American politics than I am.
Right.
I think it's fair to say, and I think I'd heard the name James Comey before, but I haven't. Unlike Trump or Obama, I haven't got any frame of reference to what he looks like or anything like that. So I felt he had a sincerity, I think, to the performance, and I got the impression that that's what James Comey had, this sincerity. He very much wore his heart on his sleeve. He was very much about the job, about the importance of the FBI as an agency and as a force in America, a force for good and a force for doing the right thing, and that ultimately cost him his job. Spoilers.
Well, yeah.
Because of in the drama at least seemed to spell out that because of the erratic nature of Donald Trump and the things he gets sort of stuck in his head about certain things that have been said. You know, we've seen Trump at press conferences and on Twitter going on about, but he said this, but he said this, but he said this, repeating himself over and over again, and using all this rhetoric and things. Someone rational like James Comey would clash with someone as irrational as Donald Trump. It wasn't a charismatic performance, but I think that's because
No.
James Comey isn't a charismatic character. He's very much the everyman, and I felt Jeff Daniels played that very well. What are your thoughts on it?
Well, I think the same, and it was difficult for me to, because again, although I know a lot more about James Comey and I know about the situation, I know nothing really of James Comey the person. I thought one of the interesting little bits that I didn't know is that his predecessor was Robert Mueller, who then went on to be the special prosecutor in the Russia investigation. And I don't know if he turns up in the later episodes because he's very involved in that, but he was the previous FBI director. I hadn't picked up on that. The one thing that annoyed me about this program was the fact that we needed to be talked through it by these two characters. So the show starts in the present day and then cuts back, and then occasionally you cut back to the present day of these two, and they're kind of like reliving James Comey's career. I didn't feel it needed it. I think
a framing device is what you're talking about.
Yeah, and I don't think it needed it. You've seen them. One of them is working in a field office, and the other is working with the Justice Department.
Yeah.
So you know who they are, but you don't yet know why they're now having this conversation.
Yeah. And you only get that in the final scenes. I think for me, I really struggled with this initially. It took me quite a while to relax into it and get the pace of it, get what they were doing. I obviously heard about the Hillary email scandal and that side of it. So once it got onto that, and it was very much again like in Honor, the procedural elements of it, people sitting around a table discussing what they're going to do next, discussing what their best move is going to be. Some interesting performances, in this, I suppose, supporting cast. I really like Jennifer Ely as his wife.
Yes.
Another British actress. She was very good as I suppose giving him a bit more of a human aspect, and as you say, him and his daughters, and his daughters very much wanting Hillary to be president. And there's that, I don't know, I think that's at the end of the second episode on Sky, where he takes his daughter to vote for the first time, and someone taps him on the shoulder and says, "Oh, well done for that." And there's a scene in the second episode where the wife and daughters all go to the women's march, and someone says F James Comey, that sort of thing. And it's about his daughters, I think, feeling that backlash a little bit as well, because he got it in the neck, didn't he, from Hillary supporters who felt that the timing of everything.
He was very much he was very much seen as working for Trump if you were on the Hillary side. I think, and he is involved in this show. It's one of the things that I found out is he has been very much involved as a consultant. So you are seeing more the balance, and you do get that feeling that he is more and more trying to be apolitical. He is trying to be what you call partisan, where he's not, he's not supporting Trump or supporting Hillary despite his outside pressures to do so. And in the end, really,
you mean impartial, don't you? You mean impartial. Partisan is when you are sticking up for one person.
I thought partisan was working across both sides.
I'm going to look it up.
Look it up, because I could be wrong.
Partisan is a strong supporter of a party, cause, or person.
Oh, I do apologise then. I mean the opposite of partisan.
Impartial is what you mean.
Impartial. Because obviously this is based on real life events obviously what we also get is the kind of made up conversations. Sometimes the words that come out of their mouth can feel a little clunky.
Oh yeah, definitely. No, I don't know if Luke has watched any of this, but I would bring up it's my new catchphrase, as he says. He has got a tin ear for clunky dialogue or unbelievable
Yeah.
dialogue, and I think a lot of it was, but what if Donald Trump does become president? That's never going to happen, that sort of thing.
That was very much how the election was framed.
Yeah.
Up from when he announced to when he was elected, there was a lot of people who were mocking the fact that he would ever become president.
I think it was like but we could be working for Donald Trump in a few, it was that very much foreboding, and as you say, expository dialogue in explaining everything that they were doing. I found that very clunky, but I think what worked here, again, the procedural elements of it, the very strong performance from Jeff Daniels.
And the other thing I suppose we should say is that as well as the actors playing these roles, you occasionally get real life TV clips.
CNN,
like you get a clip from The Late Show with Colbert. You get press conferences. You get real life news footage of events that happened.
I'm guessing you're going to watch the other bits of this, though. You are.
I'm going to watch the other bits. I agree with the comment you made about the pacing. It did take me a while to get into it, but I think by the end of that second episode, I was ready to press next.
Yeah.
Had this been, on a streaming service, it got me. So I'm looking forward to seeing the next 2 episodes.
And so that's all. That half of that is on Now TV, Skybox sets, all that jazz. And the next 2 episodes, which were 1 episode in the States, are airing. I would say this Wednesday. It will be tomorrow if you're listening to the podcast when it comes out. Okay.
And it was all done as part of Showtime in America. So. One of the real big cable networks, and I believe they made. I mean, obviously, because we're in an election cycle in America, they made quite a big fuss of this.
And actually, I was just going to, I was going to mention this. The guy, I think his name is Billy Ray, if I'm not mistaken. The guy who sort of, I suppose, created is a bit of an odd word for.
Yeah, only Billy Ray I know is Billy Ray Cyrus.
No, it's not Billy Ray Cyrus. No, this gentleman has done. He's written quite a lot of films about true life things, so
okay.
Captain Phillips, I don't know if you've seen that, the Tom Hanks film with the Somali pirates. Have you seen that?
No. He's worked a lot in this field, shall we say.
And his most recent screenplay was for Richard Jewell, the Clint Eastwood film about I don't know if you know this story, the security guard who found the bomb at the 1996 Atlanta Olympics. And then
I know the story. I didn't realise there was a film of it. Oh gosh, I might try and watch that.
But he's also done stuff like the latest Terminator film and he adapted the first Hunger Games book. But everyone needs money, don't they? I suppose that he, I think, enjoys dramatising these sort of stories about how how even incorruptible people can be corrupted or can change depending on their circumstances. So I enjoyed it, and as it went on, I found myself getting into it a little bit more. There is that issue about clunky dialogue, but if you do pursue it, I think you will find it rewarding in the end, and I would urge you to at least look at some clips of Brendan Gleeson's performance, because it is an interesting interpretation of a man that we all know so well. We've seen him on TV for years. So Now TV, Skybox set, Sky Atlantic, the latter 2 episodes this Wednesday.